What's good, folks, and welcome to a kind of special
Yeah.
edition of the film room here with not so much film as it is somewhat breaking news, concerning news. Myself, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. Eric, we have the start of Buffalo Bills mandatory minicamp today, and as of right now, there is a significant player on the team who is missing from the Buffalo Bills. It is one of the alpha players on the Buffalo Bills. It is one of their best players. It's a player who fans have been focused on all offseason because he hasn't been at the voluntary stuff, and everybody's been like, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
When mandatory stuff rolls around, he'll be there. But as of right now, as you pull up the graphic there from the Bills official Twitter page, Stefan Diggs is not in attendance at Buffalo Bills mandatory minicamp. Sean McDermott saying he is very concerned. And so, Eric, here we are to just kind of talk over this for a little bit in terms of what it means, what it might look like going forward, what we've heard the past couple of days, as this kind of turns into a real thing. Before it was just kind of speculation from
Right.
people and connecting dots, but now it seems like there may be some more substance to, the breadcrumbs that people have been putting together.
Yeah, and those breadcrumbs, as you said, have kind of been lingering the entire offseason about Diggs being unhappy. And there was always a lot of talk and speculation and rumination about, could they get rid of him? What can they do with him? They're kind of stuck with him and all that stuff. That entire offseason, we thought it was behind us. And then mandatory OTAs open up and he's not there. Now, Sean McDermott did come out and say he's very concerned that Stefan is not in attendance. But I heard this kind of unfolding last night. I was told that Diggs was in town, but he was mad. He was angry. And when I heard that, I didn't really think too much of it because he could be angry about anything. Maybe they lost his luggage on his private plane or, flight over. Maybe he didn't get the suite that he wanted in a hotel. Like so many different things. So I kind of just let it lie where it was and didn't think too much of it. But then when you hear today that he isn't there for mandatory practices, then you're like, oh man. So then the phone's blowing up and people are asking a lot of questions. I'm trying to find answers, but right now we basically have what Sean McDermott told us, and he kind of left it at that, right? At that beginning of the presser, he basically said Diggs isn't there. And that's really all I'm going to give you right now. That's really all I'm going to talk about. Yes, it's concerning. He was asked if he's concerned. Of course he's concerned. Everyone is there except their star wide receiver, except their alpha wide receiver, as you said. So that's what we knew yesterday going into today. And then I believe Adam Schefter just dropped a tweet about Diggs not being there. According to Diggs' agent, Adisa Bakari, said that he is in Buffalo, so confirms that he was in Buffalo yesterday. And a lot of times, guys, when camps are about to start, they bring these guys in and give them their physicals and, their meetings beforehand, the day before. And then today, practice is open. So he said that he was in Buffalo yesterday, took his physical, met with the head coach and GM the past 2 days, and the Pro Bowl wide receiver will be there for the entirety of the minicamp. So right now, that tweet right there from Schefter and Diggs' agent makes you think that, hey, maybe there was a little issue, whether it's in regards to the team or maybe it's something personal, but he felt that, day one of practices, he wasn't going to be there, but maybe for the rest of the OTAs, he will be.
And I think that's what's so weird and murky and muddled with this whole thing, right? Like usually when we see holdouts, whether it's minicamp related or training camp related, holdouts for these mandatory things, usually it's financially driven. It's, I want more money or I want a better contract. There's some kind of something. But for Stefan Diggs, that shouldn't be the case. And we don't think that it is. And it's interesting, Eric, as you read Schefter's tweet and then pull it up here, like him being in Buffalo since yesterday morning, took his physical and met with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane the past 2 days. It's just interesting, like, to know kind of what, or to sort of surmise, I guess, at this point, what his frustration would be. It for the problems that having financial, discrepancies or being at opposite ends of that can be from a contract perspective. Usually the solutions for those are somewhat cut and dry. Player wants more money, organization wants to pay him something fair, you try to meet in the middle. But if there's some kind of issue where, is it a personal thing? Is it something organizational based? Is it something that's non-monetarily driven? Those type of things can be somewhat harder to kind of smooth over because there's not as clear and cut and dry or as straightforward of a solution potentially. And I think that's where a lot of fans start to get concerned or worried, because it's not like, okay, you know what, he's holding out. We all saw this coming. He wants a new contract. He should get one. Boom. He got the contract. He's one of the leaders on the team. We all know what happened when he was kind of shouting at Josh Allen a bit in that Bengals game. So I think fans see this. And even if he does report the rest of the way, it's immediately this red flag of like, oh my God, why is he not there? Because it can't be money. Is he upset at Josh Allen? Is he upset at the organization? Is he tired of something else? Or it could be something as like, I stubbed my foot, my toe really bad yesterday, and I don't feel like practicing today. And they're like, okay, it's fine. But like, yeah, it just raises all these potential questions because it's worrisome in general, but the normal straightforward answer isn't necessarily present at this point of why he's, especially when you add in that he's there, has met with McDermott and Bean and isn't present on day one.
Yeah, and I don't know, you could go either way, where if it's something personal, something he's dealing with personally, it has nothing to do with the team. He would also be meeting with the GM and head coach, going over that. Maybe he's got something to deal with before he can really deal with what's in front of him at practices. But it also could be something to do with the team. Like you're meeting, like I think both avenues, both options, both probabilities really would have meetings with the coach and GM. So it's hard to really glean too much from him meeting with them. Because again, it could be something personal where he's like, hey, I'm here, but I got to deal with this other thing, right? It could, maybe it's something there, but
it could be non-Bills related at all. Like it could be just something, that's completely non-related to the team and an on the field or off the field perspective. And maybe he hashed it out, but it's just preventing him from practicing today. But what's interesting with that, like, do you think, because McDermott is usually very like close to the vest with everything as this Bills organization is, do you read anything into it? Like this comment here from Buffalo Dave, who says, for the coach to say after meeting with Stefan Diggs that he's, quote, very concerned is big. Do you read anything into that of McDermott saying like he's very, and again, because that could mean a multitude of things. Like Diggs could have came and told him like, hey, I'm going through something personal. And so Sean McDermott could say like, hey, I'm very concerned, but it doesn't mean like he's very concerned as in Diggs isn't going to report. Maybe he's just concerned for Stefan Diggs as the person. It's just a wild time.
Yeah, because again, and I'm pretty sure, because I just listened to it once or watched it once, but I think he was led into that by a question.
Okay. Fair.
Are you concerned that he's not here? Well, yes, I'm concerned. He's the only one not here. I'm pretty sure that's how it unfolded. But even with that said, it is still concerning, regardless if it has to do with the team or it has to do with his personal life. He's got something else going on that he's got to handle. Either way, he's not there. And yes, as a coach, that is concerning because as you heard McDermott talk about in that presser, there are some new things being put in. There's some new players. There's rapport that needs to be built. He wasn't there for any of the other practices. And now they're starting to, add in some new stuff and rehash some of that other stuff and there's some new pieces in that wide receiver room in that receiving room altogether. So yes, it is concerning, but I do think he was asked that, and of course he's going to say, yes, I am concerned. He's one of their best players, if not their best offensive player aside from Josh Allen. Absolutely. And he's not there setting an example. So, I mean, if we connect all the dots all the way back to the end of the Bengals game, and Diggs yelling at Josh, there obviously was some friction there. I think that was all valid, especially this offseason. I do believe he was frustrated. I do believe Josh and everyone was frustrated. That was the expectations of last season were very, very high, highest we've had in a long time, right? And for them to be crushed in that way, it was frustrating, not just for players, but for fans as well. So I understand that there probably was a little riff, a little unbalance and in their harmony that they've built over the last few years. But there comes a point where, hey, yeah, you do need to get back to work. And I think today was kind of that day where, okay, everyone has to be back. So everyone's gonna be back and happy and joyful. And you find out pretty quickly that's not the case.
I like this one, that it's Dorsey. Diggs used to rave about Dable. Never heard him once say something good about Dorsey. So yeah, it's Dorsey's fault. I like that one.
I guess that narrative's not dying yet either.
No, so, and everybody's still. And again, I think Dorsey is the new Edmonds. I feel like he's just that guy that's in the crosshairs for people. But Eric, to your point, like, this mandatory mini camp is what everybody has kind of been pointing towards with Diggs missing OTAs, which is the voluntary OTAs, which is something he's done in the past. And everybody kept saying, like, it's fine. Once the mandatory stuff rolls around, he'll be there. Once the mandatory stuff rolls around, he'll be there. And for him not to be there on day one, even if he shows up day 2, day 3, and everything going forward, there is some cause for concern because of his. I think it's twofold, which I don't think is too revolutionary of a thought I'm about to have here. It's one of how tremendously important he is to this team. He is one of the elite players, not only on the Bills, but in the league in general. And he's Josh Allen's go-to guy. But then two, he is a fiery guy. Going back to his time in Minnesota, where his fieriness was a little bit more destructive than constructive, like it has been in Buffalo. But he's a high emotion guy, and it's understood. Like, he grinds. We see it all the time in the offseason where a lot of guys, their social media is, and not that Diggs doesn't go to like the Met Galas and stuff and little things, but a lot of guys, their social media in the offseason is them going to this event and them going to that event. Right. Stefan Diggs' social media is like him on a beach running routes, him in a gym, like sweating his ass off, running routes.
Working on his craft. Yeah.
Always. Like, he is 1000% like a grinder in terms of working on his craft, his footwork, his route running, like the nuance that he adds. And you combine that hard work with the personality that he has, where he's firing, he's extremely competitive. And sometimes those things lead to blowups, like we saw a little bit in the Bengals game. And yeah, I think there is a chance maybe some of it carried over in the offseason, but I don't think it's tough because we're breaking it down in this way, but there's still so much that is unknown from a context perspective. And to speculate whether you think it's Diggs wants out or everything's fine or it's Ken Dorsey's fault. There's so many breadcrumbs that still have to be put together. But I think for a lot of fans who have been kind of banging this drum all offseason of being concerned, this is adding fuel to the fire in a way that kind of pushes the panic button for a lot of people.
Yeah, and guys like us hate having to talk about this stuff because we just want to watch a film. We just want everyone there practicing. We want to be covering what they're doing at practice and stuff like that, not necessarily these type of stories. But Cover One, we try to cover every angle when it comes to the Bills and the NFL. So we figured we'd go live. But yeah, this was one of those days where, hey, we get to now move forward, right? Almost, I don't want to say start the next season, but really start to build that foundation, right? Build that rapport, put those things behind us. And hopefully we don't know exactly what happened here, what's going on, but we do hope that it's obviously taken care of, gets squared away so we can talk about football, because these aren't the stories that, I personally like to cover. Joe says it's my fault, guys.
Yeah, Joe jinxed it.
I got his jersey. I jinxed it. Yeah. That's rule number one. You'd never buy current players' jerseys. Like, come on, dude.
What are you doing? Thanks a lot,
get out
Joe.
of here with that.
What a jerk. What an absolute jerk.
But I will say, let's talk about how it affects practice. Hey, maybe it is just for today. All right. It's good. It's good because as he was not at those other camps and practices, it allowed other guys to get more reps, right? It allowed other guys like Sherfield. You heard those stories about him stepping up and really standing out. Josh Allen just praising him. Now it allows those other guys to get a few more reps, this time in maybe even a different type of setting, maybe some different drills, maybe some different type of 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s now with Diggs not there, hopefully just for today.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweeted out, it's cool. Like, Diggs just wants Gabe Davis to get wide receiver 1 reps and like let him build that. I was like, okay, he's like a super good guy. But that's a fair point. Like, you've got, even if it is for this one day or however long it moves forward from a practice perspective, Eric, I think that's a really good point. Like, this kind of, say Diggs is absent for however long he is absent. Again, based on Schefter's tweet, we anticipate that Diggs will be present tomorrow and going forward. But anytime that he misses, everybody just gets bumped up a peg in the rotation and in the ladder. And then you get to see, if you want to take a silver lining from it, it'll be interesting to see like those guys get put into those roles. If Stefan Diggs is missing time in any way, like, cool, Gabe Davis gets bumped up a notch. Deontay Hardy gets bumped up a notch. Khalil Shakir, Trent Sherfield, like you mentioned, maybe they lean more heavily into, getting reps for Dalton Kincaid and working him in further. Or, I'm going to keep banging this drum, even though it probably doesn't happen in one practice, lean into the running game a little bit more and bring the power run game back and see what happens there. But this gives other players those opportunities to see reps that Diggs would have normally gotten, or potentially be lined up in looks or alignments that Diggs would normally be in. So if you're trying to take the silver lining from it, you get these guys to kind of build that extra rapport, get those reps, and kind of build some self-confidence and some independence in themselves as they are thrust into roles that they normally may not have been thrust into because Stefan Diggs would occupy that space.
Yeah, and when you have a guy like Diggs, I think when they made this trade years ago, they understood these type of situations arise, maybe more so at wide receiver than in any other position.
Yes.
I know running back is kind of going through something right now at position and the running back contracts, but I feel like wide receiver diva that gets associated to that position. And obviously they're paid really good right now. Wide receivers their contracts are just getting out of hand right now. But I think they knew personality wise that Diggs, they had to handle him a little differently. And I think for the most part over the last few years, he's been a very good leader, a very good player, leads more by example than anything else, but his emotions, his energy, his alpha mentality, all those things really are what set him apart from maybe some other wide receivers in the league. And so some of that can lead to things like this, right? And so we hope that, the news of him meeting with the GM and head coach over the last 2 days, take it for what you will. I don't know what that means. Why are they meeting with back-to-back days?
Right.
Maybe, again, that could go either way. So I think that we'll have more answers soon. And I just hope that we do get answers, right? I hope there is an explanation, because more times than not, we've heard these type of situations arise, and then the staff or the players will just kind of sugarcoat it and just kind of leave it where it's at and not really explain anything. And then it allows the media to kind of run with it and throw out every possibility, and it just blows up and then kind of festers at times, almost like this has in many ways in the off season. I just hope there is some kind of explanation, and it's a valid explanation, so that, again, we can put this behind us and start talking about football.
Absolutely. Like this isn't a storyline you want in general, but especially for a team with championship aspirations, especially involving a player that is so integral to those championship aspirations. And like several people have said in the comments, like, he's a captain. And Eric, like you said, he's one of the leaders who leads by example. And boom, as Jason says, I get Diggs is upset, but as a leader on this team, why isn't he doing more to elevate instead of always not showing up for voluntary stuff? Show up, step up, and lead. And I think that's a fair cause for concern.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want this from anyone, but especially like one of your captains, one of your premier guys from a talent perspective, but also from a leadership perspective. This is one of the guys who sets the tone. Eric, you and I both played ball. Like, like how important it is. Those guys that are your leaders on the team, they need to actually lead. If your leaders are not fit for captaincy, that has a trickle-down effect for your entire team, because it makes everybody go like, oh, bro, like, we're supposed to like listen to this guy. Like, this guy is one of like our leaders. This one's got one of the guys who's put up in the forefront. You don't want any sort of bad juju or bad vibes or negative energy stemming from anywhere on your team, let alone this early into the offseason. And so I'm right there with you. Like, whatever answer we get, I hope it's not muddied or vague, which I feel like it could be because Diggs plays games, but I would love to see something extremely as concise and as valid as possible. Like, oh yeah, like I wasn't in practice yesterday because of this. And we're all like, oh, okay, that's plausible. Like, I feel better.
Right.
Like, okay. And I keep thinking, you're a Seinfeld guy, you'll get it. I keep thinking of when Jerry, Elaine's friend, who's the marathon runner, comes in and he stays like with Jerry, but the year before, like, he didn't work out. And Jerry's like, was it the snooze? Like, was it the AM?
Yeah, the
PM?
alarm clock. Yeah,
exactly. Like, was it the wake up? Was it the check in? Like, all of these things. And I kept thinking of that all day. Like, what could it be that prevented him from coming in? I joked on Twitter, like, oh, maybe he overslept or missed his alarm. And I just hope whatever it is, to your point, like, you want it to be a valid reason. You want it to be succinct. You don't want there to be any muddiness or murkiness in his answer, because to your point, you want to move forward. Like, we want to move forward. We want to be able to break down what we're seeing in practice. We want to break down what we're seeing on the field. And you don't want this cloud hanging over your team from that perspective, especially this early into the offseason, because this is something that it could set a negative tone or tempo for the entire offseason. And then you're going forward in a way that you really don't want.
Yeah. And like we said, we just wanted to come, go live real quick as news is unfolding, kind of give you our opinions on this. But We'll obviously know more in the next few hours. This just broke in the last hour or so. So we wanted to, again, share our opinions on that, but we'll have more info for you guys. Hopefully you guys are insiders and you're part of our crew, our premium subscription. Because if you already knew some of this news that came out today. But if you're not, join for $57 for the year. You'll get all of our content behind the paywall as an insider, but you also get a lot of the inside information that we get behind the scenes, and we share that with all of you guys if you are in our Slack channel, which, Anthony, everyone loves the Slack channel, right? Right now, people, instead of doing work, are at work presently, physically, but they're in the Slack channel talking about this news, watching us, hopefully, and discussing this situation.
Absolutely. We talk about it all the time. Like the Slack channel is my favorite piece of, the one pass aspect and just the, Cover One Insider piece as a whole. And we get that feedback all the time. We've gotten it being at Bill's practices, at training camp. We get it here all the time. Like you see the people talk about how awesome the Slack channel is. And I think a lot of it stems from you just have a good group of like-minded individuals without a lot of the toxicity of other social media apps and platforms. And then there's multiple channels built into the Slack, like just pure Bill stuff. There's fantasy football stuff, like kind of whatever, pick your poison type of thing. But it's a really good community that the brand is built, and you just get a lot of good conversation. The Slack channel, like you said, today is just absolutely jumping with what's going on with Diggs. And yeah, it's that social media piece you look for without a lot of the toxicity you get on those more public social media places like Twitter and all those other kind of pieces. But that'll do it for us here on this episode. Again, Eric and I wanted to speak to, again, the news of what was going on. And then Adam Schefter's tweet broke as we were going here. But it really just kind of, instead of clarifying things further, which it kind of did, Schefter's tweet also added some more murkiness to it with just Diggs being in and meeting with McDermott and Bean. And, it's a piece we wanted to speak to and get some things out for the brand and for you folks here. So for everyone who joined us live, we appreciate the hell out of you. Those who joined later and are watching this post live, we appreciate the hell out of you as well for watching this. And hopefully this is resolved in the coming days. And hopefully everything we said here won't matter tomorrow, because Diggs is at practice and he told everybody, yeah, my car broke down and I had a really stressful morning, so I didn't come. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. That's fine. Everything's great. Yeah. Just a nice, simple, explanatory piece from Stefan Diggs. But Eric, as we start to wrap here, any parting words for the folks?
No, like I said, become a One Pass member, become an insider, get to our Slack channel. As soon as we're offline here, I'll be go ahead and contacting some sources, see what we can find. I'll be sure to share that info with you guys in the Slack channel. So become an insider. You'll get this info quicker than people on Twitter, quicker than people on YouTube and any of the social media platforms. So we couldn't do this without you guys. We appreciate all of our supporters and insiders. And we got shows every night of the week, and we wouldn't be able to do any of those shows without you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got you covered every single night of the week. Speaking for myself, I'll be live tonight at 9 p.m. on Disguise coverage. And then we'll see what happens for myself and Eric in the film room tomorrow. Hopefully, again, stay the course, everyone. Batten down the hatches. It'll be okay one way or another. We'll figure out this way forward, and we appreciate you folks. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. If you are here now watching live or later, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video. It is the lifeblood of this channel on YouTube and these streams that affects the algorithm in significant ways. So please, if you would be so kind, drop a like on this video and tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome this show is and how awesome the brand is at Cover One as a whole. We appreciate you folks more than you will possibly know. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday that is now filled with panic and dread and worry. We hope you are all right. If you need anything, get at us on Twitter. I'm at pro__ant. Eric is at Eric J. Turner, and then the Cover One handle at Cover One. And until the next episode of the Cover One film, or until tonight at 9 p.m. when you see me for Disguised coverage, I am Anthony Prohaska. That's Eric Turner. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills. Don't panic.